Welcome to Men on Trek, episode 4. Beaming to you from parts unknown and wondering why you have not hit like and subscribe yet, so you would know where we were coming from. On today's episode, I guess I'll say let's get ready to rumble. Today's episode is Arena. Season 1, episode 18, originally aired in January of 1967.
Let's get ready to rumble.
My favorite episode. Declaring it.
Top?
It would
Number
be.
1.
Really?
Yep. Number 1 episode for me.
I didn't think this would be number 1.
This is your first time with us, and you're wondering who you're hearing. We've got James T. Palpatine.
Thank you.
Captain Mark Dystrom.
Captain, I thought it was Commander, but okay, I'll take the rank up.
I thought you were a captain, but
okay.
If you want to be demoted, I'm sure you've done something to deserve it.
Commander's lower.
I know.
Captain.
I know they are.
Okay, you're good with that?
That's fine.
They call me Admiral Looks Good in Red Keith, and we have Lieutenant Audio Arthur keeping everything running, much like Scotty. So.
No, I changed my mind. I want to be promoted to captain.
You want to be promoted to captain?
I can't be under Palpatine.
You might.
I got to be at least equal to him.
You might get demoted for insubordination. I told you were a captain.
Yeah. Well, you're a red shirt. Although you might be an admiral.
Not for long.
You won't last long.
That's probably true, but I still look good in red. I can't help myself. But nonetheless, we have Arena. Definitely one of our favorite episodes. Jim has declared it his
number
favorite
one
episode,
is
which is impressive.
Had to happen sooner or later. Yeah. Somebody had to get to it.
Had to declare. I think I declared on Balance of Terror.
Yeah, I think Doomsday Machine for me is still number 1. I think so. Maybe it'll change as we go.
Don't you think I know that?
Audio Arthur missed his cue on that.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You are great. I am great.
Oh, that's
the wrong one.
Don't you think
there we go. we're working on it.
Yeah, but your number 1 does not have a
I don't have
snappy
a sound
line.
I don't have a sound. I will not have a sound bite. That's terrible. That's true though. See, that's the tyranny of the story, right?
It is.
You can't make. We talked about this a little bit. There's not a line in Arena that people would identify with.
No, it's a somewhat desperate episode. It's kind of, I don't know. Do I want to say it's a bit more serious?
I think there's an arc that Kirk takes that you don't normally see. He starts out pretty jovial. He's pretty happy about what's going to happen. Then he gets put into a bad situation.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then he gets pretty angry, and not in an Ahab kind of way. He wants to break it off on somebody.
He's very pissed about what's transpired. But let's get into it, as they say.
Well,
Admiral Redshirt, do your job.
It's tough being in charge. So our story opens. The Enterprise has been ordered to starbase at Cestus 3 by Commodore Travis, apparently for what could potentially result in a little shore leave.
Meet and greet.
Commodore Travis is legendary for his hospitality, and Kirk's looking forward to getting off the ship and getting a little rest, having a good time.
It's interesting because Spock, from the very beginning, questions, why the whole tactical team.
Something's awry in his mind.
Right.
Yeah, something's not clicking.
Because he's not attracted by what McCoy's attracted to with this mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, McCoy's ready. McCoy's ready to party.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. Spock goes, "You're a centralist." McCoy goes, "You bet your behind I am.
That's right.
I want all the rich food. I want dancing girls. I want it all."
And McCoy's like, "We're gonna get off the ship. We're gonna be on real ground. There's gonna be real food." I'm happy. But when they arrive at Cestus 3, probably one of the better opening intro scenes, kind of a surprise moment. They beam down, and of course, Cestus 3 has been completely destroyed, and things shift dramatically. And
In the remastered episode that we saw, that graphic that shows the crater and everything, that is modern, right? Did the original? I don't remember the original episode looking that good.
no, it tracks.
Did it?
That
Okay.
the pit, the craters were there.
Okay.
I don't even know if they touched them up. I think a lot of that was actually a set.
Okay.
Because I was looking at it, wondering if, never paid attention to it when I was a kid, but I was wondering if I was a matte painting, and I think most of that was physically there. I think it was a real
It's a
set.
physical set.
Yeah, I don't know if they built it from scratch or modified some other set, but it was what we call practical effects, and
Right.
it looked really good.
And as soon as they materialize, Kirk calls up to the Enterprise. Cestus 3 has been destroyed.
Yes.
But it's that quick juxtaposed in the story writing. That
Right.
It's the unexpected.
Yeah.
You beam down, and the lead up is, "Oh, we're going to be partying.
It's gonna be a good
We're gonna
time.
be- we're gonna have a good time." And you beam down, and everybody's dead. That'll kind of ruin your day.
Yeah.
You know, you go down, and we're gonna meet Admiral, and we're gonna get it on and enjoy ourselves, and nobody's there.
Yeah. Nobody living anyway. And just again, the gravity of the old series. A whole colony has been destroyed. A whole starbase is gone. You don't know specifically how many people it is, but men, women, and children have been killed.
Right.
And then there's
And for the moment, you don't know why.
yeah, and you don't know why, and it's total destruction. So that is like I said, to me, it's probably one of the best intros because of the surprise and the quick change of pace. I mean, you're entering in with what appears to be a more lighthearted episode, kind of akin to like the beginning of Trouble with Tribbles or something. you
Right.
know. You're getting into a very lighthearted thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a second.
Right.
Well, and this talks about story as well. So what immediately happens, Kirk realizes, boom, there's been the outpost has been destroyed. They scan, they pick up a life form. They go to this guy. He's laying there,
The survivor.
And I think in modern writing, that survivor would tell you everything.
Right then, yeah.
We were
he
attacked
explained
by
the
so
whole
and
story.
so. This is what happened. And the only thing he says is careful when they're moving him. You get nothing from him.
Yeah, he doesn't
you
know
don't.
anything.
We never know his name.
Yeah,
he never. We do. I don't know if that's Commodore Travers. I don't know who it is, but he gives you the only thing he shows is that there's a survivor, but his function is not clear.
The survivor is probably laying against the wall saying, "I'm glad my shirt is not red." I survived.
It didn't help him.
My
It
shirt is not
It
red.
didn't help him that much.
which leads us into one of the iconic classic red shirt deaths.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're getting ready to. I think Spock picks up on his tricorder that there's more life signs, but they're not human.
Yeah.
And
the
they're
red
about
shirt,
1,200 yards away.
and the red shirt takes 6 paces in front of the rest of the
Well,
group.
Kirk sends him.
Yeah,
Kirk
he's-
sends him. See what you can see, Mo man.
He's like,
I need some verification of enemies.
Well,
I think I see something. What is
He
it?
wasn't-
My death.
he wasn't just anybody. He's one of the tactical
Tactical team,
experts from the
that's right,
ship. He's
yeah.
That's true.
I mean, actually, truthfully, in terms of security, he might have been the red shirt.
He could have. He probably was
Lieutenant-
the red shirt.
Lieutenant commander, he's chief security guy.
Yeah.
And there he goes.
He sticks his head up. I think I see something. It's my own death.
It's the flash. It's the
And
flash.
he
It's
was
a red light.
obliterated.
Yeah, he got the no evidence treatment.
He glowed for a second and then he was gone.
He got the classic no evidence.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
and they gave you
If
that.
I can find his
and
name.
they gave you that great sizzling sound when he got hit.
That's right.
You get that great ooh.
Conversion from
That's-
matter to
that's-
antimatter.
That sounds like that hurts.
The boiling of liquids.
You know he felt it because you could see the expression.
He
on
got
his
that
face.
look on his face.
Like he wasn't
ooh.
just, I see something and gone, but he's.
It's another one of those little things you don't pay attention to when you're a kid.
And the only red shirt in the party.
Yes.
Out.
But
like
not
that.
but not the only death.
No, not the only death.
No. But it's one of those things you don't pay attention to when you're watching it when you're a kid. We covered in a couple other episodes. There's things that you might have wrote off as instant that are not instant. These guys are when they hit you with those phasers set for no evidence, you feel that.
That's right.
You feel that before you go away. You get a couple seconds to stand there and burn before you go. And even in previous episode we were talking about apparently you feel things on the transporter because Scotty walks off the transporter and he knows it's out of adjustment.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
of how it felt.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I don't know if I want to feel how my molecules are being put
oh
back
no.
together.
Oh no, you're feeling
I
it.
don't think
You're
I
feeling
don't
it.
think that'll be a fun experience.
You're feeling it. And also what struck me about the opening on this episode that I never really considered before, even though I've seen it many times, is that the sophistication of the Gorn attack. Sneak attack and overwhelm a starbase, which supposedly has pretty formidable defenses.
Right.
And not only that, but have the ability to fake communications from the base to lure the only capital ship in the area into a trap.
And send out 2 fake messages.
That's what I'm talking about.
Do you think the Gorn got that information from data banks or did they get it from?
You mean did they torture it out of somebody?
Yeah.
I don't know anybody other than the Commodore himself that would know what ships were in the area because in the message they called for Kirk personally.
Right.
They're using the Commodore's voice to bring Kirk in as when we start the episode
it
out.
may not be the Commodore's voice
No,
specific.
because
It
Kirk
was,
knows who he is.
But is that who he's talking to in the transmission?
Well, I'm not saying they actually use the Commodore himself.
but his name, yes.
No, Kirk recognizes the person who's asking him to come down and bring his men with him.
Right.
So,
And-
however the Gorn managed to do that, their technological level, as we see in the episode, is high enough
It's
that
sophisticated.
they can do sophisticated enough that they can do these things.
And technically it worked.
It
Yes,
works.
it did, absolutely. And got them to bring the tactical officers from the ship down to the surface. Ostensibly, that would weaken the ship's response to the attack. So it's a pretty sophisticated plan that they're executing, and don't really pay attention to that when you're a little kid watching reruns.
Yeah, I think also tactically it makes a lot of sense because whether they beat it out of somebody or they got it out of the data banks, they probably assessed what a starship could do and probably realized that even in a sneak attack they couldn't beat it down. So they needed to get the tactical crew off, eliminate them,
Right.
and then go after the ship with a less tactical command.
That's a very good point. Get the tactical crew planet side and
Right.
kill them there,
Right.
and have an easier time with the ship. Now, for the red shirt who vaporized, I think his name was Hurley.
Oh, okay.
So the captain said, go up there, Hurley, and find out what's up there.
Or Hurley.
And 10 feet away, you step within the zone.
And
of
watch it again when he gets hit.
Yeah.
It's like a cold shower.
Yeah.
You're seeing it, and he feels it.
Get that sizzling.
right.
Sizzling sound is just like ooh, that's not good.
So then they grab no name survivor and haul it back to a building.
Yeah, burned out building.
Hold
trying
that
to
building.
Render
'Cause-
some medical aid.
And there's a bush in the compound that the Gorn crew hates because
they-
they hit it with at least 3 mortars.
Yeah, they got it zeroed in.
Remember, it's 1967. Let's give them a little. They have a limited budget.
Yeah, they blew up the center of the compound 3 times, which is where the bush was. But it's it's a pretty gritty scene. The base is destroyed. One thing I noted was that there's a sign on the building in the background that indicates that this is civilian residential area.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
It's pretty bad. It's like they really give you a lot of cues that I never paid attention to before. That there's a lot of
Women and children.
non-combatants on this planet.
Oh, gotcha.
But before they get to that secondary hiding place, Kirk has a conversation with Sulu about protecting the ship.
Oh, yes.
Protecting the ship. Get my ship out of there. I don't care what you have to do. If you have to leave us on planet side or warp out, whatever, protect the ship. And this goes to the core of the captain.
Right.
The ship is your lifeblood. It is everything. The ship is your world.
Right.
You are nothing without the ship. You can't go anywhere without the ship. The ship is all in. It is all in all. It's their world.
Yeah, and that's driven by Sulu calling them up, letting them know they're already under attack.
Right.
You know, the ambush has been sprung.
Sulu did pretty good. I was a little. I don't know if I was. They fired pretty quick, and I guess it's okay. You know, after they saw what happened on the planet, but they were quick on the trigger. He's like Sulu fire, and they hit it with phasers immediately.
Yeah, and you know,
So
No hailing frequencies.
reasonable response.
No try to contact them.
so right after the red
This
ship,
is the original series. Weapons have been fired. There's no need to have a conversation.
right after the red shirt dies, Hurley, Kirk to Enterprise, lock transporters on and beam us up, and Sulu comes back. Can't undefined ship
Right,
is
they're
on
under,
up on screen. Can't beam you up because Sulu's already put up
they're under
Right.
attack.
Sulu's already put up the
shields.
The shields. So sorry, Captain, you're down there until this issue is settled. Because Kirk's like, get us out of here, and Sulu said, nope, sorry, your ship came up, shields are up. And
He offers to drop them and beam them up, but
he does
Kirk's
later.
not going for that.
He does later on in the conversation, but the first thing Kirk thinks is, get us out of here, get us back onto the ship,
Right.
because the base is wiped out and the ship is everything.
And Spock's reading multiple cold-blooded life forms off in the distance.
I think Kirk was really right in not dropping the deflectors, not because of the obvious, but I think the Gorn had something waiting, and not just an attack. I don't know what it is, but it seemed like if they followed protocol, because of how well the Gorn knew what was going on, probably they expected there to be deflector shields dropped in order to transport them up. I think they were waiting with something.
Well, I think Kirk assumed that the Gorn were technologically, as we stated before, equal to the Federation. So would you leave your ship open to an enemy who we know is an enemy? Would you leave your ship open to an attack? And the answer is absolutely not.
Right.
No, never.
Because whether you're on a planet doesn't change the fact that if the ship is destroyed, you're doomed.
Right.
So I can try to survive on a planet. As long as the ship is up there, I've got a chance. But if the ship is gone, there's no way for me to turn. There's nothing I can do.
Right.
Wait to be tortured by the Gorn.
But I think it goes back to what you touched on earlier. That's procedural logic. That makes sense, but I don't think that's where Kirk's motivation comes from. Kirk's motivation is, that's my ship.
But one thing
I can't let anything happen to my ship and my people.
That's true. But one thing we've been trying to do on Men in Track is point out the difference between writing of this day and writing of that day. Writing of that day, 1967, it was very logical, and it didn't matter if it fit into the confines of what the storytellers are trying to tell, the narrative of the day. They're sticking to what is absolutely logical, that what you would do in facing that situation. Mm-hmm. And losing your ship to try to come pick you up is idiotic. Just like traveling across the ice to try to capture one zombie and bring them back is idiotic. Right. It doesn't fit the logic that the world encapsulates.
Yeah.
Plus, it also buys them time to analyze what's going on more. You know, and I think Spock says it. He says Sulu is an experienced combat officer.
Right.
You know,
And they've, and you know, as a side note, if you understand the Zombie on Ice reference, you know, please comment, please say so in the comments, and Mr. Daystrom will have something for you. But a
Men on Track shirt.
Yeah, perhaps if you're lucky. But yeah, it's tight storytelling. I mean, it's when you think about it, a lot of it goes back to this is 1967. I think a lot of the people in the industry at the time, the writers, have that World War II experience.
Mm-hmm.
We briefly talked about how some of the actors on the show are veterans.
Right.
Leonard Nimoy, James Doohan were veterans. And this comes, I think this episode comes across, I think that comes across in this episode, the combat component or the military component we see in this opening segment is pretty good. It's not really weird or over the top. It's pretty grounded in the world, as Mark is pointing out. It's pretty tight storytelling.
There is some, for me, there's a little bit of thinking a little bit deeper about some of Kirk's motives, because when they're outside the building and they're kind of half sheltered, he asked Spock if he remembers the layout of the compound, and he said yes, because he's thinking about the armory. And Spock says it's about 100 yards in that direction. But right before that, Kirk had said, you know, that's my ship. I should be up there.
Right.
You know, like I should be up there in the ship. And then he's the guy that runs out under the mortar barrage,
yes,
going to the armory. And it's like, that's why one of the reasons I rank this as my number one episode, because Kirk is going through so many changes so quickly. You know, he's saying at first, you know, I'm happy to go down there. Then he's like, okay, this has been destroyed. Get my ship out of here. Wish I could be back on the ship. No, I'm going to run across there and be the guy who's going to find the mortar and start engaging instead of sending his two crew members. But I think he does dispatch them to flanking positions.
He sends them out to reconnoiter and check the flanks.
Well, right after the red shirt vaporizes, he sends out the two guys to.
Right.
He doesn't send them out then. The red shirt vaporizes. He's having a conversation with Sulu, because Kirk moves up to where the red shirt dies.
Yes.
Right.
And he's having a conversation with Sulu, telling Sulu what he needs to do to fire phasers, use photon torpedoes, get my ship out of there.
Right.
He's focused on the ship first and himself and the landing party second. Then they move to the secondary location where he asks Spock about, do you remember the layout of the base?
They begin to assess the tactical situation. They're trying to figure out, he's in the mode now of figuring out what they need to do on the ground.
The point is, he starts with the ship first.
Yes.
And then he starts to consider, how do I stay alive?
Right.
I've got the ship pretty taken care of. How do I stay alive? And then that goes to getting to the armory and doing those things necessary. Now, he's already lost one guy. Mm-hmm. At that point, he sends out the two other guys to reconnoiter.
Right.
And then he goes to get armament so that he might take care of their personal situation. He's the captain.
Yes.
He's responsible for everybody who's there.
Yes. And what I kind of, to both of your points, what I like about that is, again, the quality of a captain. He's decisive. He's taking action. Ship first. He gives Sulu instructions. Fight the ship. Fight the enemy ship. Hit it with everything you've got. Destroy it if you can. If not, retreat. Save the ship. But then he immediately shifts to taking command on the ground, and he's like, I have to find something to fight with. I have to
staying alive.
So he takes off. He takes off running.
But it's decisive action of the captain. It
takes off running, and the Gorn hit with another disruptor mortar, and blows Kirk into the air. And he kind of does this rolling tumble. Yeah. You see, he's a little dazed, a little stunned, but not for long.
No.
And he makes it to the next mortar crater.
He dives into the crater. Yeah.
And then immediately gets back on the communicator.
Lands with the communicator out.
He's multitasking. Like, it's not being negative, but it's just looking at it and saying, maybe I don't know, James T. Palpatine.
So
I would have had Spock, can you keep talking to Sulu while I try to cross the battlefield and find a mortar? Instead, he does this hip roll right into the crater. Boom, the communicator goes open. Sulu status report.
Phaser in one hand, communicator in the other.
He says, Kirk, report. Kirk here, report. That's the statement made. He rolls back up. He flips it open. Kirk, report. Kirk here, report. So he's transferring between the problem in space,
right,
and the problem on the ground.
The big problem on the ground, they're firing disruptors at him.
Well,
but
they're both major problems. You lose your ship, you're done.
I'm just saying it's a big problem.
And if you get vaporized by a mortar,
yeah, you're done.
Ergo, you're done.
Right.
But as a captain, he's working both problems out as he goes through his activity.
Yeah, because the first chat with Sulu was hit him with phasers. Get ready to go if you need to. And then after he hip rolls into the crater, then it's arm photon torpedoes and fire those.
Well, Sulu says, Captain, are you all right? And Kirk goes, never mind about me. What about the ship?
Right.
Sulu, phasers are negative against their deflector shields. Kirk, arm photon torpedoes. Kirk, let's get this straight. Don't do anything. Do anything necessary to protect the ship. Leave orbit at max warp. Whatever you need to do. And Sulu, never mind about me. Protect the ship. So he's going from that point. Do whatever necessary.
He's fighting with both hands.
He's fighting with both hands.
Yeah.
Fully engaged.
Yeah.
Fully engaged. Watching this over again, just having the thought of like combat in Star Trek must be horrible. I mean, you got these incredibly powerful weapons. I mean, coming up with the photon mortar and disruptor shots at 1,500 yards, and guys just disappear, and just the sheer scale and effect of the weapons is just like, whoo.
I would think that would be less horrible. You don't see the gore. You don't get the body count. Like you're not walking through somebody's blood and entrails hanging out.
But the casualties would mount so quickly.
But out of yes.
And there'd be very few wounded.
Yes, but out of sight, out of mind. You're walking around and your buddy's gone. He disappeared.
I think that might be. I
don't know if that's worse than half of your buddy's blood and bodies on you.
You know what I think it is? I think that there's a spectrum in Star Trek of injured. There's 95% of it they can fix you and it doesn't even look like anything happened, and then the other 5% is Pike.
Yeah.
like you're in a wheelchair and all you can do is beep.
Yeah.
So they can cure so many things, but once it gets beyond that, if you survive, you're
you're toast. You're wrecked.
You're buttered toast.
Yeah, our unnamed survivor in this episode might be in the Pike spectrum. He might
got those delta rays.
He's not quite that bad.
He might have some future problems.
His face is somewhat crispy.
To this day, man, when I see Pike and you just see the look on his face, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And they left that. He's got that big, he's got the big burn still there on his face, and the one eye's like half closed. But, oh man.
But as to say in conflict, it's not like walking up Omaha Beach. Save It Private Ryan was one of those movies for me that at the opening of it, when they're walking through the carnage,
yeah, it's powerful.
It really shakes you because it's done with the technological advancement of our movie industry.
Right.
That it looks real.
Mm-hmm.
And you see people, there guys laying there and half of them gone and he's crying out and legs missing and all that. Here in Star Trek, ain't nobody there. Ain't no blood. Ain't no guts.
I think
you get hit and you whoop.
I think on some level it'd be more disconcerting that somebody just flashes and vanishes, never to be seen again.
I respectfully disagree, Admiral Redshirt.
I don't like, and they really didn't. I didn't see that in the original series. I just probably have only seen it in the newer movies and that, where the hull is breached and people get sucked out into the vacuum. Like I wouldn't want that to happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like kind of like taking a phaser. I mean, not that I'm asking for it, but you got a half a second of sizzle and pop. But
gone.
getting sucked out into the vacuum of space, it's ooh.
I think in the original series they dealt more with the radiation because they were always talking about here for this guy who's wounded, he has intense radiation burns and McCoy says we got about 2 hours to deal with this guy. I think it's mostly the radiation. If you don't get vaporized, what radiation you get hit with is doing eternal damage.
Well, remember, this is the height of the Cold War, and I remember being a kid, and it wasn't so much that you feared the hydrogen bomb, it was the radiation.
Right.
Yes. It was like living through the radiation, so that was the big fear, radiation.
But we're
go ahead.
We're coming up to the point where Kirk makes it over to the armory and scares up a mortar of his own. And gets a little payback, but
he had the Gungan blue.
Yes, the Gungan bombs.
The Gungan bombs.
Which can we say Gungan? This is a Star Trek show.
But right before he gets out the mortar, once again we see a glimpse at how advanced the Gorns are, because Spock says they locked onto my tricorder. And they're feeding the signal back.
Right, overloading
which
the tricorder.
turns the tricorder into a bomb.
A bomb.
Right.
So he has to throw it. So as you progress in the series, although you haven't seen the villain yet, the villain is not somebody they can just shirk off.
No, they're very sophisticated.
They're on comparable levels.
Well,
on who they're dealing with.
It's the only time you get a glimpse of what electronic warfare in the future in their world is like. I mean, even in a combat situation, you're running around with the trusty tricorder, and they can lock onto it and blow it up. It's an interesting glimpse.
That makes your science officer a walking bomb.
Well, they're not the only ones that use them. That's a tool. That's a tool for scanning. It's the sensors on the ground. It'd be like a drone today, and they can turn it on you.
Well, it's when the reveal of who they're fighting is finally shown. That's the last thing you expect from that species.
Yes, yeah, and we'll get there, but
right.
So yeah, they overload Spock's tricorder, and
Spock got there because he was back with McCoy and no-name survivor, Mr. Radiation.
Yes,
and he said that they're moving. I've got to get to the captain. So Spock heads out instead of using the communicator because I think Kirk was on it already. But he gets hit with a disruptor. He goes down. He makes it to the crater, and then that's where the tricorder is overloaded.
And Kirk calls in his 2 flankers, and that's when you find out you've lost another crewman.
that guy's shirt wasn't red, so he wasn't one of yours, Admiral.
His shirt was gold, but it didn't save him.
He was a gold shirt, huh?
He was.
Wow.
Command officer.
Because the other blue shirt shows up and says he didn't make it. So it's just, and once again, I still think combat where there's no bodies and everybody's just gone would be more mentally disturbing in a way.
I think it's eerie.
For you?
I think it's eerie.
It is eerie.
Knowing that 1,000 people have died in this spot.
And there's nobody.
And there's no evidence that 1,000 people
There's
have died
dust.
in this spot. You're walking into a killing zone.
Right.
And there's no evidence that it's a killing zone.
Right. If the building,
in a real killing zone, you would see the bodies stacked up.
Yeah.
You go, well, man, there's a lot of people died down in that valley. I think I'll go around.
But that's information that the enemy can use, right? That's why, you could sort of figure out what was happening, and they're not leaving anything easy for you to figure out.
Well, right. Back in real warfare, the bodies would stack up.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But you're looking at Arthur, you're looking at a perfectly clear path. The grass is still green because the blasts are not.
Well, there's
I know.
In this what was really effective to me, the destroyed building in the background was great, but to me that opening scene where the ground is scored and burned, that was really effective in getting across the magnitude. And then they pan back and there's craters. That really got across the magnitude of the attack.
Where did you think those craters came from? Because I always thought that they were created from attack from the ship surface attack.
I would have assumed orbital
Yeah.
attack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So assuming that those who are attacking Kirk at this time
Are on the ground.
were just those left to
Do you
clear
think
out.
you think the Gorn captain was on the ground?
No.
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 I don't think so.
He's smarter than Kirk. He ain't going down for a lunch.
Well, it's what we talked about. It's what we talked about.
I'm the captain. I'm staying on the ship.
The captain would almost never get to leave the ship.
Well, there was a logical reason for him to leave the ship this time.
Yes.
He was invited by a Commodore to come down and enjoy himself. So that gives okay, all right, yeah, come down. We're gonna have some wine and crackers. All right, I'm good for it.
There is one thing I noted. Considering that they thought they were beaming down to enjoy themselves, they were heavily armed. They had the Type 2 phasers. They were ready to rock and roll, and it's like, why? That's not standard.
And you wonder too, they didn't do any scanning.
No, they didn't question it.
They didn't question, except for Spock's questioning. But
well, they had the audio from the Admiral.
there you go.
Come on down. Bring your tactical.
Well, no,
team.
they had no reason to scan.
They had no reason to scan.
That part was great, but the fact
That would become part of my standard operating procedure going forward.
Yes.
Even if we were coming up on like Earth, if we were coming back to Earth for some reason, just give me a quick scan. Make sure
everybody's alive.
Make sure everything's okay.
is everything good on there?
Are you picking up any disruptor fire?
But let's look at this logically. You're coming up to a planet, pleasure planet, whatever. You're going to scan them?
You
What
would
for?
You wouldn't normally. Not in your
You
own
would
space.
normally.
Yeah.
Because it would seem like you didn't trust them. That could cause an incident. So you wouldn't scan. Okay, I've come up. I just heard from the Commodore. All right, it's all good. We beamed down, and now our bacons are in the frying pan. So it works out logically. Now they get the mortar, and go ahead. I know you want to do it.
No, go ahead.
So the surviving crewman,
Yes,
whose shirt is not red,
blue.
runs up and says, "Aren't we a little close for those babies?
Yeah,
For those jewels?"
Because they determined about 1,200 yards.
yeah. 1,200 yards up on the ridge line.
And what I love the part where they're in the crater, and he says, "Aren't we a little close?" And Kirk goes to drop it, and Spock and the guy move back about 2 more feet. Like that. That's not. It's the effective range is 1,200 yards. They're going to be at 1,201 yards and be outside of it.
Well, they're in movies today. They would say they were dropping danger close, and I guess they just kind of accepted it and were like,
well, in the filming, when you see it, they drop into the pit, and it looks like the wash goes over the pit.
Right.
That's the way it's somewhat how it seems to be filmed.
It's definitely a big blast.
Right. And
blast.
right after that, the Gorn leave orbit.
What do you think it was?
Photon mortar looked like.
A photon mortar.
Maybe that's the Star Trek version of a grenade launcher because it was so powerful you probably couldn't throw one, that's for sure. And be far enough away. Photon grenade, photon mortar. I mean, that's what it seemed to be.
Yeah. It sounded
like a photon torpedo.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
But
like one of those glowing balls.
Do you think it got
franchise?
Hey, I never thought of this. So, do you think it killed the Gorn crew and then on the ground, and that's when the Gorn ship left? No, he said they activated their transporters.
Some of them were beamed over. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did some damage to the however many Gorn were on the ground. I'm sure they did some damage, but
I don't know about that. The Gorn seemed pretty tough.
Well, incinerated is incinerated. I don't care what you're made of.
I don't know if you're dropping a huge rock from 1,000 feet up.
Wait a second, you just warped into the third act.
I don't know. Did the Gorn just get a little suntan from it? Feels warm, Earthling.
Yeah. We're going to slowly walk over the hill and kill you. But
it would probably take 2 days from the Gorn to come down out of the mountains and kill them anyway. The Gorn walks so slowly.
Run. I am running, Earthling.
Yeah, the Gorn aren't dodging any phaser fire, that's for sure.
No.
They're not doing a Kirk roll and tuck.
No. The Gorn world might as well fight like colonial British soldiers. They may line up 10 abreast and walk forward.
So does Sulu call down or does Kirk call up?
Sulu keeps giving Kirk updates on how the battle is progressing and that they're not making any headway.
He says they're pulling away. They activated their transporters, and then Kirk says, track them.
Yeah.
And then Sulu says, our deflector shields are down. We can beam you up, and then they beam him up.
Kirk calls for a medical team to be beamed down.
30 personnel.
Yeah, that's quite a few.
That's a lot.
You don't even picture. I never pictured the Enterprise having.
I didn't either.
A medical staff that size.
But I wonder, there's probably a lot of people that are cross-trained as medics.
Probably.
So probably 20 of those were like frontline.
Yeah.
And then there was probably some higher trained personnel there.
I would think everybody on the ship would have basic medical training.
Oh yeah, every soldier does, and I mean Starfleet is the military.
Right,
so.
I would take that for granted that every single individual on, and then there would be those who are tasked certain medical duties beyond the doctors.
Yeah,
And then,
It seems like when those 30 people got down there, they were like, nobody left.
I know who's
well,
left.
you could insinuate. I mean, the suggested size of the installation. You just see a courtyard. You just see a courtyard for 5 minutes, but the suggested size of the installation will warrant a search for other survivors.
Right.
Another thing, I would have thought you'd wanted to beam some security down with that just in case.
In case you had some Gorn commandos.
Yeah. Slow moving.
Yeah, that's right.
Slow moving killers.
That's right. Couple of red shirts to help out. At least draw the fire.
Yeah.
So they get back to the ship, and before the pursuit happens,
Which is Act 2. Is that not Admiral Redshirt? Usually you lay out those acts for us pretty well.
Well, it's a 4-act. It's a standard 4-act,
Right.
broken by the commercials.
Yep.
I was tickled this episode when Audio Arthur caught that really suspenseful break, but he's like, man, that would have been brutal. But this is heading into Act 2, first commercial break back when it originally aired. What strikes me about this is Kirk is clearly just angry. He wants payback. He's ready to take care of this.
He's just chewing up and spitting fire.
Well, when they have the conversation with the survivor,
Yes.
and the survivor is telling them that the ship comes in at space normal speed, sublight, and they radio to them, and there's no
answer.
response, and then the ship just opens up a can of whippy and just starts to beam them, kill the people there. Kirk starts to get upset as this conversation is going on.
Right.
And then the individual starts to say, why would they do that?
Why would they attack us?
Why? What's there to gain? As women and children, we radio to them. We're begging them.
Tried to surrender.
We're begging them, don't kill us. And they wiped us out indiscriminately. They didn't care.
Right.
Kirk gets pretty upset.
Oh, yeah. And rightly so.
Yeah, I think that's where you start to question when he said that they tried to surrender. That's in the writing, and that was put there purposely for us to think about it, because that's ruthless. There's why no survivors? I remember I was reading a little bit about the Battle of Crécy, where the English were so outnumbered by the French, and the English said, "Well, no prisoners today," and it wasn't because they didn't want the ransom; it's that there were so few of them. If somebody ran out to try to grab an earl or a count or, a rich guy, 10 or 15 of you to subdue him and bring him back into the lines, that would disrupt the ability for the defense. So it was like, a lot of people think it's sort of that Lawrence of Arabia, no prisoners, just slaughter everybody. A lot of times there's a tactical reason why you don't do that, because it takes manpower to go and capture somebody and not kill them.
Yes.
So with the Gorn attack, when they try to surrender, well, the first thing is you think, well, maybe they didn't understand it. Maybe they didn't understand what they were saying. But if you can craft a message
In English
with the right, with the right message, the right intent, and They knew that they were They knew they were trying to surrender. They probably knew they were civilians, and they killed them anyways.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. You can say the Gorn fully understood the message, and they continued it. They wiped them out anyway.
And I think Kirk reacts in a way that reflects that. But as a kid, and even now watching it again, I didn't have the anger that Kirk seemed to have, because he does a lot of things in the next 10 minutes that
seem out of character,
or that dark side of his character that he normally can keep in check.
Yeah, he's angry,
but it's almost like he's
vengeful.
Vengeance.
Yes, he wants payback.
He does.
He definitely wants payback. Absolutely.
But once again, the beauty of the writing, we're only given half the story.
Right. We only know what they know.
And once again, you're not being spoon-fed. You're being fed as the characters are being fed.
Right.
And all you have is what Kirk has. You don't know the intent. You don't know the reason. All you know is the outcome.
Right.
These aliens came down and wiped out a starbase with no intent to capture anybody.
Right.
And it's and Kirk's anger or his desire for vengeance is again, the writing's very good because it's done subtly. Kirk's expressing, we're going to destroy this ship, we're going to catch them, we're going to kill them. And Spock just kind of goes, have you considered that we should try to find out why this happened?
Well, that's the scene. Isn't that the follow-up scene? They're actually in Kirk's quarters.
Yeah, Kirk and Spock have a conversation.
Yes.
And talking about the attack, and Kirk says, thinks it's a prelude to an invasion.
Right.
And Spock goes, we have no proof of that.
Right. Spock's trying to say, hey, let's take a beat here and think about this. And Kirk's like, oh, no.
And Kirk says, I have all the proof I need on Cestus 3.
Right.
Kirk has already jumped to the conclusion that they're going to be invaded, and this is the farthest outpost.
Even beyond that, Kirk's like, they slaughtered everybody on Cestus 3. I don't care why they did it.
Nope. His reasoning is because they slaughtered them and they tempted us to come in.
Tried to take us out,
we're
too.
the farthest starship in this sector.
We're the defensive line.
So if we're taken out as well, they have a direct line into the Federation.
Yes.
Right. So that's his reasoning.
Right.
He's jumped to that conclusion that it is a prelude to an invasion. And just like Balance of Terror,
yes,
that we have to end this now.
Yes, I had the same thought about Balance of Terror. The line that Spock delivers when Kirk kind of says, this is the way we're going, and Spock, and it's really good because Spock being Spock, he does his job as first officer. He says, there could be other possibilities. We should explore it. Kirk says, I'm not trying to hear that. This is what we're doing. Spock gets on board. He says, very well, then if you're going to do that, and the line he delivers is almost identical to Balance of Terror. He says, that ship cannot come home.
Yes, it is.
Cannot go home.
We can't let them survive.
Right.
If you believe, Captain, I don't necessarily agree with you.
Well,
but if you believe this,
yep,
this is a course of action left open to us.
And what I like about that scene, it's not the dialogue. Spock says that. Kirk makes his statement of, yes, we're going to run him down and kill him. When they give Spock his close up, it's the expression on his face that lets you know he disagrees. He doesn't say it.
He says it in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, he says it later, but in that moment, they zoom in on Spock and he delivers a look that's like, you're making a mistake, Captain, but you're the captain. We're going to roll with it.
Yeah, well, Spock says, you must not let the alien ship make it home. And just like Out of Balance and Terror, when they come to the conclusion that this was a Romulan and the Romulan has destroyed the starbase and they're trying to get away, we can't let them, because you believe this is a prelude to an invasion, and we can't let them succeed, destroying a starbase, get back home.
Right.
It's reciprocity. You came this far, we're going to do something to you.
Yeah, you have to deter the enemy. You have to send a message that you can't get away with.
No calling Starfleet.
No, not a single call to Starfleet. Nope.
I'm the captain. I'm in this sector. I've got my ship. I'm breaking a foot. You just happen to be the body. that is going to be broken into.
Then Kirk gets on the intercom, and just for the next 90 seconds, he's phaser teams ready, photon torpedoes, Mike in engineering, get your knife out. He's like, this is not a drill. Repeat, this is no drill. This is no drill.
I want to hear the grinder wheels working on those blades, buddy. Get those things sharp.
If we can roll mines out of the shuttle bay, let's do that too.
See these red shirts arming up like Rambo, putting a knife in, putting all the magazines on,
tying the bandana around the head,
breaking out the never seen phaser rifles.
Yeah. Remember in yeah, I can't say the movie, but it's a Star Wars movie. But when one of the transports gets away and everybody goes cheers, it's like, you hear this is no drill in the background. You hear everybody. Here we go.
And there they went, and that's when you start to see the parallels in the two ships. Them trying, because the Gorn ship is moving at Mach 5, I think. Warp 5.
They start out at Warp 5.
Warp 5,
and that's pretty speedy.
Yeah.
In the old series, that's close to maximum speed, from what they understand.
Well, sustainable, safe
maximum speed.
Yeah. Sustainable and safe.
Right.
Cruising speed.
So you're not gonna get home with the radiation burns. Warp 5.
And Kirk goes Warp 6. And everybody looks around.
To match the Gorn.
No, to overtake the Gorn.
Overtake.
Because the point is to overtake.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everybody looks around like Warp 6.
Mm-hmm. And then isn't that where Spock comes down and has a little chat by the chair?
Yes. Yeah.
Does he have it that early, or does he have it when they hit Warp 8, when they go to Warp 8?
No. By that time, Spock's just standing there because, remember, Kirk dresses him down.
Yeah, this is where Spock
isn't pursuit enough. And it's funny when he goes Captain's log, 3046.2. We're in hot pursuit.
Hot pursuit.
not cold pursuit.
Roscoe P. Coltrane. Yeah, Kirk.
Get the Gorn.
Yeah, Spock. This is where Spock comes in when they're increasing speed and they're chasing the Gorn, which you don't know is the Gorn yet. They're chasing the Gorn ship, and Spock kind of slides up to the chair and says, maybe
he turns his back to the screen and he puts his head down, and that's where you're going to get a little talking to.
Yeah, he says, isn't running them out of the sector enough? Isn't chasing them enough? Do you really think we need to kill them?
Respect for sentient life or something.
Yeah, respect for sentient life. And what I like about that scene is Kirk just doesn't look at him. Kirk's looking in his face. He's sitting in the chair. Kirk gets up, walks around the chair.
That's right. Yeah.
And gets in Spock's face.
He does like a 340 degree move.
Yeah,
he could have just stepped down.
Yes.
No. Yeah. He walks around.
The chair. And it really shows where Kirk's at mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk kind of gets in Spock's face like, I'm not trying to hear all that Starfleet stuff right now. We're going to kill somebody. We're going to run somebody down and kill them.
And then he says to Spock, do I make myself clear?
Right. Get on board with this.
And Spock is like, he straightens up and he's like, yes, Captain. Yes. And then what does Kirk say? I'm delighted. I'm delighted.
I'm delighted you're on board with this.
That's right.
As if you had a choice.
That's right. I really don't care. We're doing this anyway. But it goes to the mental, where Kirk is in his mind, that this enemy needs to be dealt with forthwith. And he doesn't care what Spock has to say about it.
And then I think at this point, he says Warp 7.
Yes, because the Gorn matches speed again.
Right. And that's where you get close-up of Spock, close-up of Sulu, close-up of Scotty.
But this is another beautiful Scotty moment. They give you that long shot of Scotty standing over there by himself, looking at Kirk like you're doing it again.
He's got a mow at the council. He's got a guy working the council in front of him.
The engineering station.
Yeah, but he looks at Kirk when Kirk says Warp 7. He goes, "You gonna break my ship again?"
It's that Scotty thing again, that recurring thing of, what are you doing?
Yep.
And Scotty doesn't say anything just yet, but Kirk looks at him like, you heard me.
That's right.
You heard me.
One correction, guys. That's actually where Spock comes down and they have that conversation.
Right.
So
After warp 7.
Okay, gotcha.
Spock comes down and
flipped.
says, hey, we're about to kill ourselves chasing this guy.
Right.
And they can't be too much better than us trying to stay away.
Yep.
Isn't this enough?
He's basically saying, I don't want to. The enemy, to Spock's eyes, the enemy is saying, I don't want to fight.
Right.
I'm
leaving.
I'm leaving. Let me leave. And Kirk's like, nope. Not going to happen.
Yeah, Kirk's like...
It's a statement Kirk says when he's talking to Spock. Colony of Cestus 3 has been obliterated, Mr. Spock. Something has to be done, and us just chasing them is not enough.
Doesn't he say, like, there's a crime has been committed and we're the only police force
yes.
out here? And then that's where he asks him to get on board, and Spock says yes, and he says, I'm delighted.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct.
That's probably... I mean, you see Kirk dress other crewmen down like that across the series, but I can't think of a time where he goes at Spock as hard. I can't think of another time where he goes at Spock as hard as he does there.
Yeah, he's shutting him down.
He's like, I'm not hearing this.
Right.
Get on board with this plan.
Right. Well, actually, it's what is it, the second time? Because in his crew quarters, Spock was trying to talk him down.
Right.
And he's finally like, this is going to happen.
Right. Well, when Spock tells him, if you believe this is a prelude to invasion, we have to go after them. So now they're going after them, and Kirk is putting the ship in risk.
Right.
By going to this high level of warp, and you can see it on Scotty's face.
And Scotty says, we might catch him if we don't blow up.
Right. And so Spock tries to talk him down again, and Kirk goes, we're the policemen. We can't let this go.
Right.
We have to do something about this.
And
trying to keep the political.
And, and just like from on the technical Star Trek stuff, you forget in the old series the ships, compared to what they did later, the ships are relatively slow. Warp 6 is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Warp 7 is dangerous. Later on, the ships are ridiculously fast. But something else I noted is like later on in Star Trek lore or whatever you want to call it, ships don't necessarily fight at warp per se. But in the old series, they do. They're going warp 2, warp 3, and they're fighting. They're maneuvering at warp, and they kind of did away with that later.
Yeah, that was done in the Next Generation under the Picard maneuver.
Don't do that. Don't bring don't.
But the Gorn go to warp 7.
Yes, they do.
And then Kirk makes the statement, warp 8. And then they do a pan to everybody's face.
They show a guy in the toilet down in life support, and he looks up at the camera.
He's like, "What did he say? What did he say?" Now, what may have saved everybody's life at that moment is Uhura reports that a solar system ahead of them is scanning them.
Right.
And that the strength of the scan is consistent and increasing.
I think before Kirk goes to warp 8, he makes a statement ship-wide to let the crew know what they're about to do or what he's about to have them do, because warp 8 is outside of the safety zones.
I think he just called for all phaser banks ready. He orders Spock to load the attack. He's going to let the computer run the attack.
Well, first they get scanned, and then the Gorn ship starts to slow down.
Yeah, the scans increase. The Gorn starts to move away from the mysterious star system,
right,
and then eventually begins to slow down. And during that time, when it begins to slow down, that's when Kirk orders, let's be on top of our game, all weapons online, and he's even going to feed it into the computer.
Well, he feeds it into the computer after the Gorn ship stops.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's got this giddy look on his face. He's like, we've got him.
Oh, yeah, he's licking his chops.
Yeah, and he's like, feed phaser control into the computer.
We're gonna kill him.
I don't want to be a slow human and call fire, fire, fire. I want the computer to do it automatically.
So in this moment, did Kirk want the M5 back?
He probably left M5 in fire control.
Oh, yeah, Kirk, there was no doubt about it. Kirk
Did
was
you
going to
hear?
blast him out.
Did you hear though? Did you hear? Maybe I heard it. I think maybe I heard it on one of the channels in the surround sound where he said tie the computer controls or phasers in the computer control, and I heard M5 tie in.
Oh yeah, the Gorn ship is doomed as far as Kirk's considered.
Yeah, he's gonna hit it with
I don't
everything
care.
they've
I don't
got.
care why you stopped. We're not turning around and having a parlay.
Right.
I'm blowing you out of space. I'm taking you out.
But think about that. Kirk's got us. He's got it. Uhura's telling him, you know, there's a system ahead of us, and you know we haven't been here before.
That's scanning.
They're scanning us, and the Gorn has turned away from that, and they're heading directly away. And then all of a sudden, the Gorn grinds to a halt, and Kirk is like, "We got him."
Right. He's
Instead
not
of
thinking.
saying, "Maybe we should slow down."
And she's telling him that the strength of the scan is steadily increasing.
Well,
Considering this is Gorn space.
it's not Gorn space. It's Metrons.
Well,
It's unknown space as far as the Federation knows.
well, we don't know what direction the Gorn took when they left Cestus 3.
Right.
And Cestus 3 was supposedly in Gorn space.
Unbeknownst,
So if
unbeknownst
the
to us.
Gorns are heading home and the Metron space is somewhere between Gorn and Cestus 3, you would consider this would be Gorn space, and the Gorns just avoided the Metrons.
Well, if you're thinking 2 dimensions, but remember, like the Romulan neutral zone is 3-dimensional. So if you think of Gorn space as maybe like a donut, and the Metrons may be in the middle, instead of them usually going around it or under or over it, they cut through it, and maybe they didn't, or maybe they knew, maybe it was a chance that they were taking. But you're right, if it is Gorn space, how did they not know that the Metrons were there?
They probably did, because they're saying the Gorns are avoiding that section.
I took it to be more the Gorns were reacting to the fact of the scans, and they were trying to avoid the scans.
I did too.
Not necessarily that they had knowledge of the Metrons,
but under logical reading would be that they would understand the Metrons were there.
it depends on if the Metrons had ever revealed themselves to them.
I don't know. The Metrons are...
Maybe it's because the Gorns weren't being pursued. They just let people pass.
Right.
But if you're going to fight in their backyard, they said, then we're going to handle you.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
Prior to that, the Gorns are buzzing around the system, and who cares?
Right.
Because they're not doing anything. But when the violence kicks off, now the Metrons are interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
I don't think the Gorn were aware of the Metrons based on how it played out in the show. They don't directly address it.
You know, unless, and this is left field, if they did know, and maybe they've had history that this is what's happened before, and the Gorn captain's like, they're going to pull me and the other captain off. And I'm
gonna break a foot off in a minute.
I'm gonna let the Metrons set this fight up.
So you think
that's
the battle in the desert?
That's a good hypothetical.
So
if the Metrons can continue to do the same thing.
So now you're suggesting that the
Gorns are leading them
that
into
the Gorn
a trap.
was the undisputed Metron champion.
The Gorns,
We should tell people what happened here, because the
Gorns are leading them into a trap.
So the Enterprise,
that's a big reach,
ends up stopping like the Gorn ship does, but not on their own volition. They go from warp 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 sublight, and then they're held motionless, just like the Gorn is.
No weapons power, no propulsion power.
And which leads up to a great Spock moment where they're trying to figure out what's happening. Kirk goes up to him. Spock's at the science station, and he's like, "We're being held." And Kirk says, "From that distance, that's impossible." And you could see Spock just trying not to be aggravated, impatient. But he said, "We are being held."
Right.
Like, it's not impossible.
It's factual. It's
happening.
Whether you think it's impossible or not,
it's happening, Captain Ahab. You let us into something we can't handle.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay away from the Moby Dick references, but it seems like so many episodes fall right into it. Kirk is desiring to kill these people, and they get caught up in his own machinations.
Or somebody is. There's always that person that's hell bent.
We put this square on the captain.
This time, yes,
It's
absolutely.
square on the
Absolutely.
captain.
This time.
He's in it 100%.
The Gorn vessel was his doomsday machine that he was chasing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But it's the other way around. Instead of beaming the crew down, Kirk gets beamed down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Metrons yank him right off the bridge and the Gorn captain.
And they tell him the
ship is stopped. The Metrons come up on the screen, and
we are the Metrons.
And thanks to the remastered special effects, you get a funky, psychedelic, colorful. I don't believe it looked like that in the original run.
I think it was like silver.
Yeah, it was more silver
on a vibrating.
Yeah, something
plate,
like that. Yeah,
and then they hit it with like red and green filters.
Yeah, you get a funky, psychedelic thing going on, and we are the
Metrons.
Not to be confused with the Organians or
we
Squire Trelane.
We hate the Organians
or the Q. Another mighty race.
And basically, they say, we've looked at your history through your computer, and we realize that you're barbarians, and both of you brought this violence into our system, and we're just going to handle this. I think they even say something along the lines like, since
it won't be tolerated.
So we're gonna.
Yeah, we're
gonna handle it.
They tell them very matter of factly.
Yep.
We're setting the rules to the match.
Yep.
You don't have a choice. Winner take all. Loser. Everybody dies. And we're doing this as an example to others, so nobody else will come fooling around in our space.
That's right. And Kirk even goes, "Can I hold on a second? Do I get a chance for a monologue?" And they're like,
"Shut up."
No communication. Yep.
And Kirk's even like, "Who are you to interfere?" And they're like, "Be quiet."
That's right.
This is happening.
And then they basically say, "We're going to take you and the Gorn captain. We're going to beam you down to a planet, and the planet has, I think it says on our poster there,
everything.
Suitable atmosphere."
Suitable atmosphere and all the implements you need to make weapons to destroy one another.
Right. And then the kicker is, it's not just the captains. So the loser gets to enjoy a Metron death penalty.
Yes.
And the ship gets destroyed.
Well, this is like old medieval, not before medieval. This is
trial by combat.
Bronze era warfare. You choose a champion, and whoever wins the day.
Right.
If we go biblical, that's the scenario on David and Goliath.
Right.
Yeah.
You choose your champion, and when your champion wins, you win the day.
You win the whole battle.
But what's different with the Metrons? It's not that you win; they will destroy your enemy for you.
Just your enemy's ship. They're not going to go and do everybody.
No.
Enemy ship.
Yeah.
But you win the day.
Right.
Your enemies are overcome.
Right.
For this engagement.
Right. And effectively in this scenario, it arguably separates the Federation and the Gorn, at least for a period of time, because there's no other contact.
I can't prove it, but I believe the Gorns did that on purpose. I would love to talk to an original Star Trek writer, the writer of the episode,
seriously,
and ask them, hey, did the Gorns know that?
Did the Gorns do the drive-by on the Metro?
If I was a Gorn, I would do that. I would lead you into Gorn's to Metro space and know that we're going to be beamed down, and you can't beat me.
No way.
I'm going to break you down into little pieces.
I can't see the Metrons putting up with the Gorn repeatedly doing that. I don't see them like, oh, you attack somebody else and here you come again.
Who's on Gorn duty today?
All the Gorns have to do is make sure their data records don't show that they attacked.
No, you go.
You're following me.
No.
Metro Man. I'm innocent. I'm innocent.
You go way down the rabbit hole.
I think it's one of those in emergency break glass. The Gorn captains are on there and his first officer's telling him, looks like they have warp 8 capabilities. It's only a matter of time. Get me the protocol. And he cracks it open and it says, take these coordinates to Metron space.
No.
And it just kind of cruises right in there.
Gorn captain is the UFC Metron champ. No.
That's hilarious. So, it might not be so, although I wish it to be. But that would be hilarious.
But busting you back down to Commander for that.
You, James T. Kirk, we are beaming you down to the planet. And Grognog the Flog, Gorn champion, let's get ready to rumble!
Making his triumphant return. Making his triumphant return to the ring.
The reigning
Metron Judgment Champion. Your friend and mine. Good to his mother.
Oh my God.
the defending,
That's so hilarious.
the reigning.
Wing.
Captain of the Gorn.
Wing.
Brought to you by Budweiser.
Beer of lizards everywhere.
Brought to you by arranged slave girls.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Okay. Well, we clearly
Where were we?
clearly lost.
Let's get off of this tangent.
So Kirk, so the Metrons pop up and corral the unruly children and tell them how it's going to be, and Kirk promptly vanishes from the bridge, and
Uhura gives a classic scream.
yes, she screams.
Yeah.
They do this across a few episodes, and I always have a little trouble with it. Being how they portray the character in general, having this obligatory reaction from Uhura when something strange happens doesn't seem to fit her character to me. They do it several times across the series, but for her to jump up and scream because he vanished from the ship just never.
Remember,
it doesn't play well with me. It's like,
I think
it doesn't
they were
make
trying
sense.
to give Nichelle some screen time.
Sure.
And I know it's not. I don't know what to say about it other than
1967.
she was so, and still is, but she's so beautiful. They do a couple of close-ups on her, and she's just.
Yeah.
I just remember being as a kid and just thinking, like, her face was just perfect.
Yeah.
Even
Her
with the
complexion.
corny haircut and always the green loop earrings, just beautiful. She was just beautiful. Still is, but yeah.
But it's 1967, and you have a woman on the bridge, and they're flowing into that stereotype.
Yeah.
Although we like the writing of that day, it is not without its flaws.
There's still a tyranny of story for that era.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and I guess that's what I'm getting at is
it doesn't fit the character.
the Uhura character. It doesn't fit her, how they portray her otherwise.
Right. I don't know if it was really necessary, but at the time,
Yeah.
Unexpected. Her captain is gone.
Yep.
Yes. She did that when he vanished
has a
in the
female reaction.
Yes.
You can't see my eyebrows going up and down, but they are.
So now Kirk finds himself on the desert planet facing a gigantor bipedal lizard.
Yes. Facing a crocodile in a loincloth.
Crocodile in a loincloth. And like I said earlier, with all the technology, I'm expecting a human-looking...
More humanoid.
Yeah, like a Romulan, a Klingon, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a crocodile in a diaper.
In a link.
In a shiny diaper.
Yeah, pretty much. And it is the probably for the second time in the episode, it's a true shocker. You're like, whoa, what is this?
I didn't expect that.
And for the time, that's heavy special effects.
Oh yeah. They made a full body suit. Full
body monster guy,
an
alien
articulating
dude.
mouth.
Yes.
That's a lot of tech for that day.
For the time, yeah. Yeah, so
they must have used the budget for 2 episodes and just in the croc suit.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's why they kept blowing up the one bush in the courtyard, because they used all the pyrotechnic budget was shot.
Not that we're talking down, we still love the show, but
Right.
it is the limitations of the day.
Because we love it.
Because
we love it. We can.
Well, you don't even. When I watched this episode as a kid, I don't even think I questioned it. I thought the Gorn was super cool, because you didn't see that a lot.
It's still better than Doctor Who special effects.
Well,
Audio
Arthur, didn't you ask us when we were watching it? You said, did that scare you as a kid?
Yeah, that was my first question. Because for me, like, I'm 23. And so, like, for me, the closest thing to that was Power Rangers, if you ever remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had that similar suited up stuff.
Right.
And so I was curious for the time, like, was that scary, you know?
What did you think of the Gorn when you saw him? That was your first time seeing him, right?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminded me, because the show is so contemporary and, like, I don't know, like, it's very immersive for me. And so, like, that was a moment where I'm like, oh, yeah, this is, like, 50 years old. Because
that's a nice way of saying it's dated.
Yeah, definitely. Because everything else about it is pretty.
It was a shock for the
Holds
viewers
up.
for the first time.
Yeah.
Because every other creature you see is generally a human in prosthetics.
Right.
Well, and then Kirk even says, he's doing a voiceover during there, and he's saying,
His thoughts.
I have a natural revulsion, I think he said, to reptiles or something.
Yes.
So, as a primate, he's reacting to this reptile.
And you don't think of it now. Even when we were kids and we were watching the reruns, it wasn't so great anymore. But at the time when it aired, this show won Emmys and things for its special effects. It was cutting edge stuff.
Oh yeah,
the things they came up with. And so when this originally aired, it was probably quite a big deal.
Quite a spectacle. But as you look at it now, it's dated.
But there's still a complexity to the Gorn's appearance. That's probably credited to like costume designers or something, and maybe not necessarily the writers. But there were two things that I always remembered. One is it looked like his tunic was like silk. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like made out of animal hides or canvas. Like it looked like that. It looked like high end type material.
Right.
Yeah, this was clothing. It
from
was
a technologically advanced race.
Yes,
right.
He didn't come out in animal skin with one shoulder strap
or leather boulder or something.
Right. And then the second thing was his eyes. And I don't know if they did it in remastering, but I think I saw in the remastered episodes where they blinked.
Yes.
And I don't remember that in the original. And they were almost iridescent. They were almost like crystals.
Yeah, they may have touched up it in the original airing. The eyes were silver, but I'm pretty sure they touched them up in the remaster because they were more
sparkly.
There was more of a radiance to them than I remembered.
But it seems like you could have just made them reptilian.
That may have
with
been
the little slits.
That may have been harder to pull off and have it look right at the time.
Yeah, remember the episode of Ball, the giant rock lizard thing, and it had lizard eyes, and it didn't look too good.
Yeah,
I think the eyes look more insectoid on the Gorn.
They did.
Yeah, that's good.
But
you're right.
It gave it a different look because it looked like it was faceted.
Right.
Different facets. So its vision was probably very acute.
I wonder if those were implants, though. I don't know if that was the natural eye. It could be demonstrating the technology of the Gorn, too.
I always took it to be the natural eye, but when you look at the character overall, that's possible.
Right.
Because it's very different from the rest of the appearance.
Right.
Well, all we know is this is what a Gorn looks like, so I accepted it as natural.
Yeah. We never
we never see a Gorn before.
We never see a Gorn again.
Nope.
And then we start the Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, run off screen, grab a weapon, come on screen, run off screen. Remember that? He runs off with a shotgun, and Bugs Bunny comes back with a cannon and the axe. And so the Gorn rips off a limb from a dead tree.
A tree branch.
Tree trunk. Yeah. Kirk runs over to his tree, breaks off a twig, looks at it, throws it away.
Says, "This isn't working.
This is not the idea." Gorn takes the first swipe, hits the tree. Kirk realizes he's slow as molasses, so he does the old kidney punch. Nothing. Then he does like a
neck chop,
judo chop to the head.
Side kick.
Yeah. Well, it's kidney, neck chop, and then the side kick where Gorn grabs him.
It throws him.
And should have broken Kirk's leg, but just throws Kirk a distance away.
Yeah. It has great writing, but somebody didn't completely think through the fight choreography.
Oh no, because Kirk as soon as the Gorn laid hands on Kirk, he should have been dead. That should have been the end of the show, and the Enterprise destroyed.
Especially when they demonstrate how strong the Gorn actually is.
They don't wait long to show you.
And as much as I love the writing, the Enterprise and its captain still has title power So there's some things that are going to go.
Was he a plot armor?
Plot
Did you say it was
Plot
a plot armor?
Plot armor.
Yeah.
Tidal power and plot armor are the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Gorn throws Kirk, and Kirk gets away. He runs up and gets a 50-pound rock, and at least 50 pounds, and tosses it and hits the Gorn in the chest. Would have crushed any human's chest.
Yes.
That would have been the end of the fight. And it just bounces off the Gorn, and the Gorn almost chuckles.
He doesn't even seem to be discomforted by it.
And then the Gorn picks up, which we were saying, a 1,500-pound boulder.
At least 700 or so.
I'm thinking at this point, there's nothing on this planet that he can make that will take out this creature. I mean, when the 50-pound boulder that's thrown hits him in the chest, and he doesn't reach for his chest or nothing.
And it's not a glancing blow.
It's square.
It's square. It's like a wet cloth hitting concrete. It's like it smacks right into him.
And then this creature picks up a 1,500-pound rock, and we're just guessing at the rock weight.
Yeah.
And clearly hurls it.
Yeah.
Uphill.
Easily.
Uphill.
That was a shot. Kirk was in the shot, and that rock hit behind him.
Yes.
What threw that? That was a prop rock, but I mean, it was moving.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a paper mache lob.
That
that thing hit and rolled.
They must have had a little catapult off screen or something.
Because Kirk looked. I don't know if that was Kirk that was reacting or if it was Bill Shatner.
Hold on, I might have been hurt if that thing hit me. And it's just paper mache.
What I like about, and we can nitpick the fight, of course, but what I like about this part of the episode is the exposition is carried forward by Kirk speaking into the log recorder, the communicator, completely unaware that he's telegraphing himself. But
a great move by the Gorn, not responding.
Yes,
getting free information,
But the exposition, again, getting back to the good writing, in a newer show, some third party would have explained all this to you while it was happening. You would have gotten this whole thing laid out for you on the side.
Well, in this point of the show, the Enterprise can't see what's going on the planet. In today's writing, the Enterprise would have seen the whole thing from the beginning. And we would be getting exposition from the Enterprise bridge on what's happening.
But even that would have been logical. I guess what I'm getting at is probably in a newer story, you would have been getting a blow by blow from an Organian. I mean, from a Metron who's watching this, giving almost like a
sitting in his easy chair eating popcorn,
giving calling the fight. Almost like calling the fight like a UFC match.
Can you see the Organian or the Metronians sitting back and going, "I wonder who's going to win this time"? Like I said, I still believe the Gorn's doing this on purpose. Sitting back, I put 50,000 on the captain.
It's like bread and circuses. The last of the barbarians getting killed today by Captain Grushnov of the Gorn ship.
No, but
hold on, Keith, before you go there. What is the episode where they're taken off ship? It's Kirk, Uhura, and Chekhov, and they're put in the
gangsters of Triskelion.
Yes, the gangsters of Triskelion.
They make them fight.
And make them fight and make wages on it. And I bet you the Metrons are doing that. I'm telling you, you can't tell me they're not.
And in the episode, where they find out that a rogue person has created Rome, they're put in the arena. It's the same thing.
Oh yeah.
But in this instance, the exposition is carried forward, I think, very intelligently and very logically. I mean, by Kirk giving you his thoughts as he goes. And I think that adds gravity to what would otherwise be kind of a unimpressive fight. If you didn't have that, that's where the tension comes from. That's where the feeling.
Yeah, and once again, we're talking about we always are doing that comparison and contrast.
Right.
What hero during a fight stops and says, unless I can figure this out,
I can't win.
I'm not going to win. And when does he get on and say, I'm getting exhausted, and unless I can figure this out, I'm going to be dead? That was the thing where you could see it, and the writers weren't afraid to have the characters say it.
Right. But they came up with a logical way for him to say it instead of him just speaking it out loud for no reason.
It wasn't just angst. He was making a record for Starfleet, for anybody who comes across this record, that
should you find yourself in the octagon, this is what happens. This is what happened to me.
But I'm getting tired. I'm exhausted. And hand to hand, I have no chance unless I can figure out. They said there's weapons here, and I've got to reason that out.
Right.
Because what I'm fighting is beyond my human ability to overcome.
Right.
And the Gorn is definitely a sea level up. I don't think a Vulcan could get down there and go hands to toe.
You can't do
Gorn.
you can't do the damage. It's like he's got 20,000 hit points. Seriously, you're gonna have to. You'd have to sleep. I mean, he's just gonna wear you down. And I like Kirk is trying to figure out how to get something together, and the Gorn's down there doing like a trip trap with a vine. Right. And he's laughing. Yeah. He's like,
yeah, he's built.
I'm going to trap him. And then he's got this obsidian spike where I don't know where it came from, but he's sharpening it.
Well, that gets us to the other great boulder drop. Kirk looks down and sees him making his obsidian blade, and Kirk finds the strength to roll a 700-pound boulder down there.
I'm sorry. At the point that boulder falls from that height and hits the Gorn, and Kirk's smiling, he's like happy. He might as well be skipping down.
He was skipping. He was skipping down.
I got you. He gets down there, and the Gorn starts to move. Man, I would have just thrown up my hands. This is over. It's done.
It's a headshot. It's a headshot. The rock falls on his head.
Yeah. Kirk's like 3 stories up. He drops a 700-pound boulder on him, and the Gorn is only stunned. But I think I would have been running for the obsidian blade, hoping I could nail him.
What difference does that make? The Gorn didn't even get a bruise.
Hey,
I get him through his skin.
I'm hoping I can nail the guy before he gets up.
Where, in the eyeball? That's probably your best bet.
Anything, man.
I mean, geez, oh Pete, you drop a rock from a mile up, hit the guy, and he shakes it off.
Yeah. They're probably the director's like, okay, we're gonna put a little blood on your nose, for the Gorn. Put a little blood right there, make it. Nah,
he's fine.
He's fine.
He's fine. Get up.
Roddenberry's over there waving him off. Nah, can't hurt him.
That's why not enough damage.
That's why you never see the. I know they're mentioned in other Star Trek later things in Star Trek, but you never see the Gorn again.
They're Mr. MU, they're Mr. Unbeatable. Jeez, oh
never
Pete,
see
man.
the Gorn again, but so.
Kirk decides to skip away. He's going to take off running.
Yeah.
He runs right into the Gorn foot trap, gets tripped up, and now he gets to lay under a boulder.
Yeah.
And here comes the Gorn.
Turnabout fair play.
Hot pursuit.
500-600-pound rock hits Kirk across the legs.
Resting on his hip.
Was that mall cop? He's going full speed on a little...
trike.
And so we see the Gorn approaching with his obsidian toothpick. Kirk is laying there in agony, waiting for the end, and then that's when they cut to commercial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeez. I'm just thinking about what being a watcher. Being back in the day, you're watching, you're thinking, man, how is he going to get out of this?
This was another.
It's like one of the old Batman.
But this was another good moment for Audio Arthur, because it hit him like, wait, this isn't like now where we can just watch everything instantly. They cut away from that and went to commercial. You had to sit there and wait to find, and I loved it because, well, you tell me, Arthur. I mean, what I loved about it is when you said it, was like, oh, it dawned on you.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with the show that you forget, like how things used to work, and when the screen blacked out right there, I was just like, oh man, that's brutal. Like, imagine being a kid in that moment. You're just like, oh.
And there was no AI. Like, you would go in a commercial with Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Targeted commercials.
There was no targeted commercial.
By a miniature of Captain Kirk, but he might be dead the next episode.
The action, the Mego, remember the old Mego action figures? By the Gorn, because he might be killing Captain Kirk. Yeah, Audio Arthur, you're getting like a glimpse of what
we used to live through.
We used to go through.
Yeah.
There was no instant gratification.
You'd watch 3-4 minutes of just random commercials.
Waiting to get back.
Yep. High karate.
Run to the bathroom.
Yep. Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. But there was a quality about that actually that added to it, because you couldn't just click on it and get it. You had to wait. There was
the suspense.
There was more suspense. I mean, they'd already built a fair amount of suspense, but now you had to wait and go through these commercials.
But there was a craft to it, because there was a camera shot when they went away, and then when they came back, when they bumpered the scene and they came back, it was a different camera angle. So you could tell that there was some caring about it. It wasn't just like, it wasn't a random cut. They filmed it a certain way, and then when they came back, it was to sort of to heighten it. And that's where we see the Gorn's getting ready to make his killing blow, but before he can, he's got to move that rock out of his way, and that's where Kirk has a chance to.
But as you say, Jim, the studio knew exactly where the commercials were going to come in, so it's filmed in such that okay, now we're at this time, and the commercial's going to have to come in, and then what are we going to do after? We're going to come in with a different camera angle because of Gorn. Now you're coming from the Gorn's perspective, and he's coming to put a obsidian dagger into the heart of Captain James T. And you as a child are sitting there quivering in fear that your hero is about to be done in by the monster of the day.
I know this is important. This is not that important, but this is Men on Trek, so it doesn't need to be. Where did you think he was going to put that on Kirk? Do you think it was going to be a chest shot?
No, I think he was going to put it in his head.
I thought he was going to put it in his head.
Well,
right in his forehead.
You've been outvoted.
I thought he was going to put it right in his forehead.
You've been outvoted. Okay, headshot.
Headshot.
That's not what I was going to say.
Where do you think it was going to go?
Well, I said chest, but I've been outvoted. I concede. But
it's not a vote. What did you think watching it? I never thought he was going to plunge it into Kirk's chest.
I did.
I thought he was going to take it. Yeah, I thought he was just going to
through the melon,
just dot that forehead. Just
as strong as a Gorn could have. Strong as a Gorn was to pick up that rock, he could have put his fist through James T's head. He didn't need. He could have just took a finger with his natural nail and poke right through it's like the alien's tongue. As strong as a Gorn is, he doesn't need a weapon. But since he's educated and since he's sophisticated,
he's not an animal.
I don't cut my. I pick up my.
I don't drive my finger into my opponent's head.
I cut my steak. I don't chew it.
Right. I don't pick up my stick with my hands. I'm sophisticated. I use tools. He could have took his finger and went right through the head of James T. But he's a sophisticated animal.
Yes,
he could have done the Roy Batty, Blade Runner. Thumbs in the eye sockets.
Yeah,
he could have just peeled Kirk's head open like a cantaloupe.
But it's clear that the Gorn hates the sight of blood. But
absolutely.
That's why he uses disruptor weapons.
That's right.
But there is a moment, just taking a small step back. They cut back to the ship, and McCoy, being the other emotional foil in the show, he's like, Spock, we got to do something. And Spock's just very matter-of-factly telling him there's nothing we can do. And this builds even more tension leading up to our agonizing commercial break.
Well, McCoy even says, he goes, with all our weapons, our engines, our computers or something. He's like, everything that we've got, we can't do anything.
And Spock says, absolutely not. Nope. Kirk's on his own.
Yep.
And that creates even more tension because you become accustomed to these characters supporting each other and being able to figure out a way together. And Kirk is absolutely alone.
There will be no Greek heroic ending where the gods come down in a crane and pick him up.
Right.
He is down there.
And it's probably one of the few times that anybody in the show is truly alone, where they're really, really on their own. It doesn't happen much.
That's interesting. I never really thought of it like
that. They're he's alone. And I can't think of another instance.
Well, we've got 30 some episodes to check that.
Yeah, we'll check that out. But just off the top of my head,
maybe our listeners will make sure that we check that.
Yeah, somebody will put in the comments. Somebody put in the comments all the times that somebody was truly alone and on their own. But speaking of fingers, click the like button, click subscribe, so we can all figure this out together. But so back on the planet, the commercials end. We're all asking our moms to buy us an action figure, and can't figure out for the life of me how Kirk's going to get away. He's got a 600-pound rock on his leg, and there's a Gorn's got him by the arm and about to drive a stake into him. And yet,
James D.
And yet,
Because he's faster than the Gorn, even hobbling, he gets away.
well, no, because the Gorn had the decency to move the rock.
Title power.
Yeah.
Well, at first I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah. But, at that point, what's the Gorn thinking? In order to get to this guy, I got to move this.
Or take 2 days to walk around it.
That's right.
Yeah. From the Gorn's point of view, I guess, since he's so slow, I say I'll move the rock.
Yep.
And then I'll stab him.
Absolutely.
But
Kirk's not as hurt as I think the Gorn thought he was.
well, Kirk's leg should be
He
shattered.
should have been.
But
But
Yeah.
title power.
this is your favorite episode, Jim, but it's not high on the list of best choreographed fights. It's not. And didn't question any of this when I was a kid. I look at it now and I'm like, no. Those are 600-700 pound
It was
boulders.
it was close. It was close to having you suspend
Yes.
reality, but
Yes.
at the end of the day, it worked.
Yes. So Kirk escapes, hobbles away, twisted ankle from his tripwire experience.
I thought he was favoring his hip. I think he was trying to have
Possibly.
hip pain.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But they cut back to the ship.
You gonna mention the laces? You saw that, didn't you? Who saw that?
It was me that I saw that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we can talk about it.
Admiral Redshirt does a little silent golf clap from Mark and I over here, and our audio Arthur's in on this.
So we've all probably seen, between our childhood and adulthood, we've all probably seen this episode 100 times each, and maybe it's because it was on a big screen in HD, but we noticed a few things. Kirk's down on the planet and he's wearing lace-up boots. Never seen those before, never noticed it. He's got on some kind of undergarment under his uniform shirt that's normally not there. It's just a side note about what they did as far as the production. They're filming in this desert environment, and they altered Captain Kirk's uniform and costume to fit the scene and I guess make it a little safer for him to run around. We also noted that his uniform tunic was tucked in, which it's normally not. Just a little side thing. If you haven't watched it in HD on a big screen, there's some things you've never seen before. Also, there's a tear in the Gorn suit. there's a tear in the arm. But so there's something for you to go back and watch for.
But seeing that they are they're not filming in a soundstage.
Right, they're on location.
They're on location. You want your star to have proper footing. So having those stylish Enterprise shoes with the heel are not good to have your actor run up and down rocks.
That's the same rock formation that they used in one of the later.
Oh yeah,
they went wherever that is. They went back there quite a bit.
That's the iconic visual rock cliff for
many planets.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
So it's not looking good for Kirk, and they cut back to the Enterprise. And what I found interesting about this scene is Spock's trying to reach the Metrons and have a dialogue, and they absolutely ignore him.
Mm-hmm.
It's final. They're not going to talk to him until when things are looking bad for our hero and Kirk is probably going to die, the Metrons decide to call him up and say, you guys should do whatever it is you do to prepare for death.
Get ready to meet your god.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I thought they said your captain's going to die.
Right.
You're probably going to want to put together a memorial for him. And I know I would be thinking, well, I'm going to die next.
Well, I took it to them telling them do whatever observances you do for yourselves because you're going to die shortly.
Yeah, I think I saw it differently, but I agree with you. I thought it was, well, it's time to get a memorial together for your captain. And how long is that going to last? An hour? Somebody do a sketch and we'll salute it.
I don't know. The Metrons look pretty prompt. I'm figuring you maybe got about 120 seconds after Kirk dies.
Yeah, Metrons aren't all what they're not as high and they're not as
high and mighty. They're
high.
They're high and mighty.
They're high and mighty.
They're mighty. They're not high.
But they don't mind a good.
No, they're high. They're lording it over you pretty good.
They don't mind a good whooping though. They're not as sophisticatedly.
Yeah,
they're not hyper civilized.
They're not the mother to say go stand in a corner.
There's no standing in the corner.
Well, they're totally fine.
No timeouts. There's no Metron timeout.
They're totally fine with winking a ship with 400 people on board out of existence. They're all good with that if it makes their point.
That's right.
If it makes their point, they're all good with that.
That's right.
Now, are they going to broadcast this across the galaxy and say, don't come here? This is what happens to you when you come here. The other thing is you have a shift in the exposition because now they allow the crew to watch because they're watching the finale, they believe.
Well, Spock makes his entry to the Metrons,
They ignore that.
And
Do you think the Metrons did that because at the end, let's say the Kirk does die, that they say to the crew, you've witnessed what happens when you come here, now go back and tell your people and don't come back and we'll let you live.
I don't know. There's a possibility that Metrons might let the crew survive.
No, I don't think so at all. I think they were doomed. I think they were doomed.
You were doomed.
Doomed. I think the Metrons fully intended to wipe out one of those crews.
Well, the Metron they show us a little bit more.
But see,
towards the end.
Hold on. Before we move past that, what you're saying falls into what I have said. The Gorns are doing this over and over.
No.
It would seem logical that the
No.
Metrons would let the Enterprise go so that they might report to their people, don't come back here. But if you're just going to wipe the Enterprise out and only people who knows what happened is a Gorn, then I can repeat the process.
No.
I can rinse and repeat.
No, because the message to the Gorn should be, don't come back here with your shenanigans.
Well, that should be the message to both of them.
No, you don't get to carry the message when you're dead.
That's the whole point.
They'll
Now, as a Gorn,
They'll send a recording. They'll send a recording to Starfleet. But
you see the next Gorn ship, and there's a Romulan chasing it. About number 2 for the weekend.
Mark's rabbit hole.
Gorn's pulling up. There's a Borg cube flying in behind it.
I do not. Hey! I do not want the Gorn assimilated. That's a Borg drone. I don't want to deal with it.
Oh my God!
Out of the Borg drone, I
don't even know if they could get the implants in the Gorn's body.
Keep breaking them.
Yeah. How do you adapt to the fact that thing's strong enough to break you in half when you get near it?
I know, man. It's like, geez, how you gonna get an implant in his body when his skin's like Superman?
But
they shot diamonds at him, and they only went in about half an inch.
There's another shift here though that's pretty well done. We were talking about it. The exposition does shift from Kirk talking into his hand communicator to Spock watching what Kirk's doing.
Well, you skipped where the Gorn hears what Kirk does.
Spock's watching at that point, so I'm getting into this, but Kirk is still recording, and this is when the Gorn, again, showing the sophistication and the intelligence of the Gorn species. What the Gorn's actually doing is breaking out a little psychological warfare on it.
Right.
He's like, hey, you and I both know how this ends. Stop making me chase you. I'll make it quick.
With me sticking my finger through your eyeball.
Stop running.
Well, the first thing he says to him, he's like, Earthling.
Yeah.
And Kirk's like, is this the Metron? He's like, no, this is your opponent.
It's like,
and I've heard everything you said.
I know you're hurting.
That's right.
I know you're tired. And we both know I'm going to kill you.
And Kirk goes, what do you want? He's like, just lay down. Lay down. I'm weary of chasing you.
Now, if I'm Kirk at that moment, I'm like, well, maybe you got a heart condition. Maybe if I keep running.
All I need you to do is bend the knee.
What is it? What does the zombie think? Cardio? Cardio's the key.
Cardio.
Gotta be able to outrun the zombie 2.0.
I had to laugh because in that scene, they show the Gorn kind of walking over this like rise, and he looks tired. He looks like, well, maybe if you keep him running, maybe he will keel over, But the Gorn is actually using some psychological warfare on Kirk. He's playing into Kirk's fears. He's playing into Kirk's pain, and he's telling him, just give up.
And I'm going to make it easy. Yeah, I'm going to kill you easy. Toothpick through the head.
Just give up. Yeah, I won't do the finger thing. I'll hit you with the obsidian spike. Everything will be lovely.
This actually works against the Gorn because Kirk digs in.
Yes,
I'm going to make your death easy. And he goes, just like you did at Cestus 3.
Oh, yeah.
Kirk's getting tired now, but this gives Kirk an extra boost.
Yeah, it does.
It's a mistake.
I'm not going to let this guy off. I'm going to find a way to kill, like as we said, captains. I'm going to find a way to win, and I'm killing you.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't see it. I missed that. Thanks for pointing that out.
But it's also, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's he inadvertently revives Kirk because Kirk is beginning to despair. And this is also where you get the flip side of the overall.
Well, he says he's exhausted too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have ran the big guy till nightfall. He's cold blooded. Maybe I get lucky. He goes dormant or something.
I don't think I think the Metrons turn on the heaters and the lights. I don't think they let it happen. I'm seriously. I don't think they. If Kirk ran off straight north, he'd come up jogging right up behind the Gorn.
I tell you,
I tell you, in Ragnarok where you're in the circle, it's a freakish circle, man.
I tell you, it's because the Metrons got money on the Gorn. I'm telling you, they're over there betting.
Somebody's going to listen to this and be outraged that we made a mockery of this battle. But it's one of our favorite episodes.
My favorite.
Jim's all-time favorite.
Number one.
Probably in my top 3.
Yeah.
But no, then also you get the juxtaposition of the initial thought. Kirk went into this vengeance mode because he felt like it was an unprovoked attack that would ultimately lead to an invasion, and he finds out from the Gorn.
Right in that conversation,
you invaded our space.
Right.
You're the invader. You're the trespasser, and that's why we did what we did because. Right. And it's Captain's mindset, right? The Gorn is a captain.
You're invading us.
You invaded us.
We have to wipe out your settlement.
And for the Gorn, it's not a supposition. It's not a guess. They actually did it.
Yeah,
it's the truth.
Right.
They actually did it.
And not only did you settle in our territory, but you basically settled with a battleship on the surface.
Right.
You set up look.
You took
silent clap.
You took territory
to Admiral Redshirt.
You took territory.
Admiral Redshirt's not. He's hot today.
He's on it. But because you're absolutely right. What Kirk was incensed about, the possibility of them,
is a reality for the Gorn.
The Gorn. You literally set up a base in our territory, and we cannot let it stand.
And put a battleship in the sector.
Right, absolutely.
And put a battleship in the sector. You took control of territory, not just the planet.
Right.
You took area control. You put a warship in this area and denied us this area.
Yeah, you planted a flag and put a battleship.
A battleship in the area.
Yeah.
Right. It's the South China Sea.
That's right.
And they don't necessarily show Kirk have a great emotional reaction to it. It's very brief.
But McCoy does. They flip to McCoy, and McCoy looks at Spock and goes, "Is this true? Are we in the wrong here?"
Right, we're the bad guys.
And Spock goes, "Probably so."
Looks like it.
And Spock didn't have to say it because we did see. That's one of the things we saw twice where he went to Kirk and said,
Hold on.
We don't know everything.
We don't have proof of an invasion.
Then when McCoy actually comes out and says it, we see a classic Spock response, which is perhaps instead of saying, "I tried to tell the captain this twice."
I tried to tell that dummy.
I tried to tell that dummy not to do this, and now we are going to die.
Yeah.
I told him.
And now we're going to
I tried to tell him, and he told me to shut up.
Now we're going to get killed.
And he said he was delighted that he told me to shut up.
Right. I got yelled at. McCoy, you ever been yelled at by the captain?
You've been yelled at by the captain.
McCoy's been yelled at.
But yeah,
put me on report.
But Kirk's a pretty good leader. He doesn't let everybody know he's chewing you out. But Kirk, again, delivery through the actor.
What's interesting though? This is an interesting point for me. The only person Kirk was going to believe was the Gorn captain.
Yeah,
because Spock is trying to tell him this the whole time.
Yes. Or at least get him to consider it.
And remember, I don't know if it was bread. No, it was the one where they get pulled down to the planet because of Zephram Cochrane and the energy field that was the symbiosis that was with him.
The Mist Monster.
Yeah, and McCoy said, why don't you stop being a captain and now be the diplomat that you were trained to be as a starship captain. You're also trained as a diplomat.
Yeah.
And only when Kirk heard it from the Gorn did he start to open up and consider it.
Right.
Because his own people were trying to tell him it.
Right.
And he was so focused on it. And that's what I like about this episode because it shows the frailty of him still being Jim Kirk.
Right.
But his job is to be the captain. Mm-hmm. And when the Gorn tells him that, he doesn't throw it away.
Yeah.
He does begin to process it, even though, Mark, to your point, he says, just like you did on Cestus 3, but it's entered and he's allowed it to enter. And then we see, as we get a payoff very quickly, that he does consider it.
Kirk is still pissed, but the information is now there and he has to deal with it. He has to process it.
Well, he's moved from that rage to he's trying to survive because his reality hasn't changed. He still has to kill the Gorn or he's going to die. And now we're getting the exposition from Spock, and we joked about it when we were watching it. This is the first reality TV show. This is the first episode of Kill, or maybe the 10th episode, Mark, of Kill a Captain. It's live television, but now the exposition is coming from Spock. They show Kirk doing his thing. He's trying to build the blunderbuss.
He hasn't started to.
He's looking for the resources.
Spock is pointing out the resources
exist,
and as he points it out, Kirk recognizes it.
Yeah,
and then you see when Kirk he takes a little bite of it and he spits it out. Kirk sort of smiles.
Yeah,
because he's already seen the diamonds. He's already seen the other precious metals. Now he has.
Well, he says something earlier on in the episode where he sees the sulfur and he goes, "There's something very old, but I can't remember what it is."
Right.
Yeah. He can't remember how guns are built.
Yeah.
Because they got no evidence phasers.
The closest thing to a soundbite, and I'm unfortunately going to say that it doesn't qualify. So my favorite episode will not have a soundbite, and that's just something I have to live with. But Spock, when he's watching Kirk start to put things together, he goes, "Yes, yes."
Oh, that might be a pretty good soundbite. just Spock when he's acknowledging that Kirk is acknowledging.
Yes.
that audio, Arthur. I'm sorry, you're gonna have a soundbite. That has to be it. But when Spock acknowledges that Kirk has figured it out, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, make that gun, buddy, make it."
Spock's like, my captain's not an idiot. I'm proud. My captain's not an idiot.
Well, he was an idiot, but now he's figured out this, so I'll give him a couple of points back of intel.
The only thing that wasn't laying in front of him was a trigger. How hard it must have been for Spock to watch that video. I'm like,
but again,
yo, man, you're running past gunpowder.
But again, if you back up from that, it's good writing and exposition because they kind of they almost form into it in your head before Kirk figures it out. There's diamonds, hardest substance known to man. He goes through that whole thing, hardest substance known to man, and Kirk's thinking about it from a monetary value, but then later on it's like, no, those are bullets.
Yeah,
and he's showing you this is a mineral-rich place. There's all this stuff.
The advancement of the men or humans in Star Trek,
right.
we would have weighed ourselves down by stuffing diamonds in our pockets. I'm not running past this. No. Once I get out of here, I'm gonna have some. I'm gonna have some diamonds, buddy.
I might have been trying to grab a bag after I killed the Gorn, but I'm not doing that.
Well, that's what I was.
I'm not doing.
See,
that.
I would have been. What did Captain James T. Palpatine been doing? I would have been yelling up, "No, I won't kill him. But I want to be able to come back to this planet.
I need the coordinates of this planet.
I need to come back here just for a day with a landing party in a full space shuttle. And then I'll leave."
Oh, my God.
And you should let me do it because I'll retire and I won't practice war anymore.
But Kirk starts to figure it out. And as Spock is doing the exposition and he's sort of being congratulatory.
Yes.
To his captain.
Yes.
As Kirk's filling it out, Spock's starting to have that ooh.
It's like, there it is. And McCoy, of course, being always playing the straight man to Spock or the foil to Spock. McCoy's sitting there completely clueless. What's he doing?
Yeah, what?
And McCoy's actually a brilliant guy in his own right, but they make it very clear that once you step out of McCoy's arena,
well, he doesn't care.
It's not important to him.
McCoy is very focused. He's
I'm a doctor, Jim.
He's a doctor,
not an engineer.
And he's there to understand the way that people think and feel. And other than that, it's a blasted machine. He could care less. He doesn't care. Doesn't care about any of that.
But as
stuff.
Spock says, remember your basic chemistry, doctor.
Right.
Gunpowder. Gunpowder.
Cordite.
Gunpowder.
And then that's the thing where Nimoy delivers these lines is he's doubling up, he's doubling down on this, creating the tension. He's like, yes.
Right.
And then it's like, well, can he do it? And he's like, if he has the time, Doctor.
And that's
if he has the time.
Yes, claps for you, Jim. That's what I love about it. The tension's already ramped up because somehow they've kind of made you believe that Kirk could actually die, which in the context of the series, could he really die? No, but they got you thinking, well, maybe. And then they put you in that time crunch where they're coming to the finale and they make it even more tense because now he's on this clock. The Gorn is coming. He's the slowest thing on Earth, but he's coming.
You're wounded.
And you're wounded. You're desperate. Can you get this done in time?
Right. And they show him like smashing the charcoal up and then mixing it. And then he takes a little bit of potassium nitrate and scoots that off. Then he scoots off a little bit of the sulfur, and then he starts to mix it up. And then the Gorn is, full out running around the corner.
Yeah. The Gorn moves as fast as he moves.
Well, it seems like when Kirk finally does, so he's got the translator recorder and he's striking it against a rock to get a piece of his uniform to catch fire, to use it as the flame to ignite the gunpowder, which is in a like a big bamboo tube that he is using as a barrel. He took some vines and he wrapped it around to reinforce it. He put the gunpowder down, packed it tightly, put the diamonds in as the projectile, and now all he's got to do is just take that fire, put it over the hole. They show him carving the hole out, and then that's going to act as the blunderbuss and boom and send it off. The Gorn, for me, I would have waited for the Gorn to
get a little closer.
Oh, he would have been. I would have held it against his chest and lit it,
I probably would have let him clear that little rise.
Yeah,
I
would have let him clear the rocks, but perfectly done.
And the explosion, the Gorn, Kirk is knocked to the side. The blunderbuss is
mushroomed.
It cannot be used anymore. And the Gorn is laying there with diamonds sticking out of its skin.
Not very deep.
And red blood.
All right,
red blood.
inches deep. Yeah, red blood.
Red blood.
Red blood.
Oxygen.
It's red-blooded.
Yeah.
But the Gorn is laying there. And then Kirk, when he comes back to himself, he goes, time for me to put an end to this. He goes up and grabs the Ascidian dagger and puts it in one of the wounds and prepares to give the final blow.
Right.
And then the words come back to Kirk in his mind that we might be at fault here.
Right.
But he throws it into Metron's face. I will not kill him for your entertainment.
Right.
That's why I believe that the Metrons were taking bets underneath the table.
Metron Vegas.
I will not kill him for your entertainment.
Right. And Metron presenting it, the Metrons are presenting it in some twisted sense of justice, but they really are creating a cage match, and in the bigger scheme of things, outside of maybe dissuading other people from coming near them, what does it even mean?
The Metrons could have done the same thing if they just would have pulled the captains from the ship, killed both captains, and sent the ships miles away.
Or killed both ships?
How about if they're truly evolved? How about pull both captains from the ship and force them to talk to each other?
Getting people to talk to each other without any consequences is almost impossible.
Well, the consequences are you guys are going to sit down and have a conversation, and we're going to waste all of you.
That's the thing about good writing, is that it makes these types of alternatives in the viewer's minds something that's accessible and something that you can
ponder over.
Yeah, and you can share it. It's not like you're sitting there and you're the only one that's thinking it.
That's something Mark mentioned when we were coming in to sit down and record. It's what made these old episodes great. They left you thinking.
Oh yeah.
They didn't spoon feed you and tell you what they wanted you to think.
Like this one does at the end. So the Metron appears.
Well, first the Gorn
disappears.
And
then the Metron appears because Kirk refuses for their entertainment to kill the Gorn. and it was never about their entertainment as much as I like that joke. The Metron appears, and he looks like an androgynous boy. And Kirk makes a statement.
Vaguely Greek.
Yeah, vaguely Greek. And I thought about that too. Who mourns for Adonis?
Right.
Mourns for Adonis.
But the Kirk makes a statement that he looks no more than 17, and the Metron says, "I'm
1,500
years old." So the Metron makes the statement that Kirk has the advanced trait of mercy.
Well, he demonstrated it, yeah.
He demonstrated it.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed the Metron's mind on Kirk.
Right.
Because the Gorn would have clearly killed you.
Kirk. Absolutely.
You're letting go this enemy who was going to clearly poke his finger through your eyeball.
Crush your skull.
So at that point, the Metron says, well, you are better than what we thought.
But you got a long ways to go.
But you're 1,000 years off
Right.
before you and us can have a dialogue.
Right.
So I'm going to let you go since you won. But if you need me to kill the Gorns anyway, since you won.
That's what I love about this episode, because even in Redemption, even when this very powerful figure shows up and delivers a very moral message about keep doing what you're doing, and in a few thousand years there'll be some utility to us meeting and talking, because right now you're learning to go to the bathroom and we're flying starships.
Right.
You've got a ways to go to get to that point. But we'll still kill these guys if you want us to.
If you want us to.
That's not a traditional godlike species offer. There's a quantum utility that they're recognizing that where Starfleet is that this offer probably would seem attractive to them.
They're powerful, but they're not as advanced as our Organians.
Right.
Because the Organians weren't going to have... This is a replica, not a replica. This is similar to the Organian episode.
Very much so.
Between the Klingons and the Enterprise, or Starfleet.
The Organian episode even has more consequences.
Right.
But the Organians were not going to kill anybody.
That's true.
The Organians were so advanced, killing you does nothing for us. It doesn't benefit us, doesn't benefit you. But the Metrons now, they're on that godlike level, but they're a couple of steps, like you say, they hate the Organians. They're a couple of steps underneath the Organians.
But this goes back to our theory about them betting on it and the Gorns using this because the Gorns lost now. So he's not their undefeated champion anymore. Yeah, so they're just like, we'll kill him and we'll let you guys be
if you need to. We'll wipe him out. We'll wipe him out.
And then run in this direction when you got somebody you want to handle.
Next time the Klingons are on your 6.
That's right. Fly over this way. We'll arrange a little something.
Mm-hmm. Just get in shape, Kirk boy. Just get in shape.
Yeah. So then they agree. They smile. Kirk is magically transported back onto the bridge, cleaned up. Shoes no longer with laces.
No laces. Back in those boots.
Organium gave him new footwear.
The Metrons.
Yes.
Yeah, the Metrons gave him new footwear.
Organians don't believe in footwear.
He had a game. Well, the Metrons had on sandals.
They had sandals.
That's right. The Organians do not.
The Organians were barefoot.
That's right.
Organians were energy. They had nothing. But we haven't even covered that episode yet.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
So Kirk sits back in the center chair. McCoy smiles, leaves the bridge, and Spock comes over and says, "Hey, we were watching up until the point where you didn't kill the Gorn, and just wondering what happened." And Kirk says, "Well, the Metron says that we're a promising race, Mr. Spock." And Spock says, "Well, I've had my doubts, but I sort of kind of agree." And then Kirk says, "Well, we've got 1,000 years to work on where we are before we get another swing at the Metrons." So,
yeah,
and you're left to ponder out the 1,000 years, what it means to be an advanced society, an advanced race, and where mankind can achieve or get to.
Can we truly overcome our worst natures
in the greater community of the universe? So you have an opportunity, because they don't spell any of this out for you.
No, they don't.
The episode ends and you're left thinking about, what can we achieve if we don't jump to conclusions?
Right. If we don't always take the easy route of pursuing revenge and
pursuing that the person who we're against is really our enemy.
Right. Making assumptions about why they're our enemies.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
If we could get past what was done, because Kirk was only fixated on Cestus 3 and the lives that were lost.
Not the why.
Not the why. Because he had no way to reference the why.
He's caught up in emotions.
Until the Gorn captain tells him why. You invaded us.
Right.
And you're now hunting us as retaliation for doing what you were afraid we were going to do to you.
Right.
Right.
And that's the beauty. It's the beauty of the writing in Star Trek, that it gives you the room to ponder without them spelling every single thing out for you. Like you're a 10-year-old.
What to think.
Like you're a 10-year-old. That's what irritates me about
Because a modern version of that ending would have been Kirk saying that, and then the screen would fade, and then in the lower right-hand corner, it would be 1,000 years later, and the Metron that you saw with addressing Kirk would be standing there, and a Starfleet person would be extending a hand, and they would shake.
In the 1,000 years later uniform.
You're right. Right. You'd have to like bookend it. You'd have to show that, because if you didn't, then
on top,
to Mark's point, you'd have to think about it.
On top of
you'd have to use your own imagination. You'd have to ponder it. You'd have to talk to your friends about it. Why do that when we can just show you?
You have to have a Man on Trek podcast.
Absolutely.
To deal with these
season 1, episode 4.
Yeah, and you got to click
these heavy things.
You got to click like and subscribe so you can see what happens next.
That's right.
Yeah, plus you'd get an extra 5 minutes of exposition where they're telling you exactly how you should feel about this.
Yeah, you need to feel about it. You'd have to have somebody sitting next to you telling you how you feel about it.
I'm to the point that I hate today's writing.
It's a bad word. It's a bad word.
That they treat you like you're 10. Sorry, RDO Arthur. I know you're not 10 though.
You knew him then.
Yeah, I didn't know him then. I knew him when he was born, but let's leave that alone. That they think we need to be spoon-fed every Attila of data.
Right.
Every little plot point or story point. And some of the greatest stories.
Bite out of him saying Attila.
Okay.
Some of the greatest stories have the open-ended plot points.
Absolutely.
Where you have to think about it. And I'm just going to throw out Pulp Fiction. What was in the case? It didn't matter what was in the case.
No.
I know what the official story is.
It doesn't matter what the official story is.
Is there an official story?
Supposedly it was Marcellus's soul.
Oh, that's already out there. We got a phaser sound.
I didn't say
we need a phaser sound of somebody screaming. So when someone says
you like the answer.
Someone says something totally off base, we just go boo.
There's booze.
No.
Gorn,
you're a red shirt. You're a red shirt. We're getting rid of you.
Gorn UFC is okay, but
that's crickets. No, there's booze in there.
No, not on this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We can laugh at you.
Booed off the podcast at episode.
No, we need a phaser sound. Someone dying in agony.
Disruptor.
Nobody screams in the old series when they get shot. They just sizzle a little bit.
Oh, their mouth is making the screaming noise.
But remember how like that was everybody was Tarantino's a genius. Like he left it up to us, and it was the way that positive. It was positive. People thought that he was a genius.
Yes,
he did that. But
it's just a plot device. It's a MacGuffin.
Yeah, we get to fill in the next 1,000 years. We get to figure out what happens after that period of time.
Absolutely.
And it actually
Voyager.
in a very rare in a very rare instance of some of the other series, it actually gives you a really good reason why you never see the Organians again. I mean, the Metrons again, or the Organians either, for that matter.
Right.
It's a logical reason why you don't revisit them in other series.
Right. Yep.
I don't think the writers on the day care about those logical.
Well, I guess
reasons,
I'm putting that out there because I'm saying they didn't do that.
But
and you would kind of expected them to do that.
It gives us today who are enjoying old Trek the opportunity to talk about these themes that Star Trek puts forth gently
in an intelligent way.
Instead of standing on the soapbox, preaching it to you and trying to beat you over the head with their thoughts.
Right.
The audience gets to sit down and confer with one another as we're doing about these themes. What could we achieve? What could we be like if we didn't rush to judgment upon somebody else's actions?
And what will the Metrons be in that period of time?
No, they'd still be a billion years ahead of us,
but maybe not. We've seen that there's a side to them where they would easily kill. Maybe in 1,000 years, they're not who we think they would be. But that's the great thing about great writing, is that you can look at it from so many different ways and say, yeah, there's some probability that it might not be what we expect. But it'd still be something you'd like to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I think we've come to the end.
I think it's time to get beamed out of here.
Yeah.
You want to do the end cap before we transport out?
Well, there's always an end cap. There's the part about where you should, put the Gorn finger on the like button, and there's the way you should subscribe, and you should give comments and really enjoy this and discuss it with your friends. And now we can leave. Another episode.
Beam us out, audio author.
Live long and prosper.
And don't set for stun.